this is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson.com, and this is episode 18 of the So Free Art podcast, which is a little podcast I do each week about art and things. And this one's going to be all about abstract painting, which is something I did for the first time a few months ago. And I thought it would be quite fun to talk about on the podcast. So that's what the podcast is going to be about today. I did post a new video onto YouTube last week, and I'm going to be posting new ones every Tuesday. And the last one was of one of my older pencil drawings of a video game character called Catherine. And I also talked about drawing eyelashes, where I compared how I used to draw eyelashes with how I draw them now. So you can find that on the YouTube at youtube.com/Sophie Lawson, and you can find show notes for the podcast at sofreeart.com. So let's get into this one, which is going to be about abstract painting, which is something I'd never really done any painting before. But in February, Leslie Sater did one of her 30 and 30 painting challenges, which is a thing she does every year, and it's 30 days where you produce a painting and post it onto her website. And there was like over 100 people taking part each day, and it was actually a lot of fun, not just doing the painting but looking at everyone else's paintings. So I highly recommend trying that, because she'll probably do it again next year or at the end of this year. And you can find out more at saterstudio.com, but I'll put links into the show notes. But because I'd never done any painting before I started the challenge, I felt a bit overwhelmed, and I didn't know how I was going to do anything or stuff like that. So what I tried to do was, I tried to simplify everything. I ended up only using one brush for the whole 30 days, and I only used a very limited amount of colours for each painting. Like with the abstract painting, I only used 1 or 2 colours just to keep things simple, because I didn't want to get confused with all these different colours. So that was just something I did which worked quite well. But it was funny, because before the challenge started, I went and bought a load of brushes. So I had all these brushes and I ended up only using 1. So that was something else I learnt, was that you don't need to go out and buy loads of stuff. You only need like 1 brush, a couple of bits of paint and a couple of canvases. You don't need loads of stuff. So I'll remember that for next time, I think, to try and keep the challenge fresh, because I didn't know if I was going to enjoy, for instance, painting abstract or still life and stuff. Because I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it, I thought what I would do is break the challenge down into chunks of 6 days. So I did 5 lots of 6 days, where I did 6 days of abstract painting, 6 days of still lifes, 6 days of photo reference painting, 6 days painting outside, and then 6 days painting my little Sophie character. And that worked out really quite good, because I think if I had done 30 days of abstract painting, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. And it was fun to just try all these different types of painting, whilst also keeping it structured. So that's what I did, and I started out with abstract painting mainly because I thought that it would be easy, really, and I thought I would be able to get away with not knowing what I was doing by just saying I wanted to do that. I thought if I did abstract painting, I could just play around, mess about, make a load of mistakes, and just pretend that that's how I wanted it. But it wasn't like that, actually, because whilst abstract painting turned out to be very random, and it was a lot of fun, there was an element of skill involved, and so it wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. But what I did was I did 6 days, and each day I limited myself to 1 main type of colour. I think maximum of 2 colours. And I'll put links in the show notes to the paintings so you can see what they look like. They're nothing special, they're not works of art, but I wasn't doing this challenge to try and to produce works of art. I just wanted to have fun and try something new, because I'd been wanting to do painting for so long and I'd kept putting it off, and then I saw Leslie Sater's challenge pop up on, I think it was Facebook or something, and I thought, well, why not, let's give this a go. So I just wanted it to be fun, and it was a lot of fun, especially the abstract painting. So you can see the paintings on the website if you want to, but I thought I would talk about the main things I learned, and I think if I had to sum up abstract painting in one sort of phrase or something, it would be that it made me feel like a kid again. It was so much fun and very liberating and freeing, and totally different to anything I'd ever really done before, and completely opposite to realistic pencil drawing, which is what I've really only ever done. Like, whereas realistic pencil drawing is very strict, and it's almost like you go into it knowing what you're going to do, you just have to do it. And as long as you sort of follow the rules, you should be able to do it. But with painting, it's almost like there's rules, but there's not rules, because you can sort of make up everything yourself, and you can be a lot more free, really. But also what I realised was that the painting sort of paints itself. So the painting sort of paints itself. So it's almost like you're guiding the paint, but the paint is also in control. So it becomes this nice little sort of teamwork thing where you and the paint are producing the painting. And I never expected that to happen. I never knew that's what it was going to be like, but especially with abstract painting, it was very, I guess, like organic. So the main thing I learnt really was just how fun it was to throw paint around. So this is only going to be a little podcast, but I thought what I would do is talk about 5 of the sort of experiences I had whilst doing abstract painting. And the first thing was what I called happy little accidents, which is something that the artist Bob Ross used to always say. He used to talk about these happy little accidents, which is where you're painting or drawing or something, and something goes wrong, which you could see as a mistake, but it ends up being really good. And this happened a lot on the abstract painting. It happened a lot throughout the whole painting challenge, really, but especially with the abstract painting. And on day 4, I had the idea of making an orange fireball dropping into an ocean. That was what I planned to do, and I started doing it, but it looked so horrible that I ended up scrubbing all the paint off. And what it left behind was like a green tint on the paper, on the canvas, and that green colour, which was totally random, it ended up showing through in the final painting, which was all blue. It ended up showing through, and I feel like it actually made the painting a lot better. And that's when I realised the importance of the base colour, because it shows through in the final painting, even if ever so slightly. And when that happened, I just thought of Bob Ross and his happy little accidents quote. And it happened again on day 5 when I didn't like the direction that the painting was going in. So I scrubbed all the paint off, and like the random mess that was left behind, I thought looked so good that I left that as the finished painting. So that was quite funny. The next little experience that I kept observing was like how liberating it was to be painting. And I think day 1 summed that up perfectly, because I was painting away, and what had actually happened was, whereas I had planned to do all the paintings with paintbrushes, for day 1 I ended up, for some reason, I was mixing my paints with the palette knife, and I ended up putting some of the paint onto the canvas with the palette knife, and I just decided to do the whole painting with the palette knife. So that was another random thing, and that's like another example of how you can plan to do things with painting, but as you're actually painting, it will just evolve and you sort of let go. It really helps you let go because you sort of just let go, and instead of saying, I said I was going to use a brush, I'm going to use a brush. If it feels like you want to use a palette knife, you just evolve and start using the palette knife. So that's what I did, but on day one I dropped the palette knife on the floor and it was loaded up with a load of blue paint, and it landed on my sock, which was a pink sock. So my pink sock was now covered in blue paint, and I just smiled. And the thing is, I'm normally somebody who's so like tidy and precious and tries to keep everything like nice and, you know, like brand new sort of thing. But I realised like on day one, and I realised throughout the whole challenge that you can't be like that with painting, and it just helped me loosen up a lot. And like my drawing desk is now covered in paint. It's still got little spots of paint everywhere, whereas I always used to try to keep that like pristine condition. So I enjoyed that part of painting whereby it sort of taught me that it's actually better in life to just have things be more real, I guess. So it definitely helped me loosen up, not just in my like my art, but also I guess in like my mindset, which was really nice. And like what I learnt was just how messy painting is, because I was getting paint everywhere, especially with abstract painting, because there's so much paint getting thrown about everywhere, and because it is so random, I was getting paint on the floor, like on my bed. I ended up getting paint in places that I hadn't even been to, so like I had no idea how it got there. But one place I did get a lot of paint was on my apron, because I've always wanted to wear an apron for like ages. I've always wanted to be an artist wearing an apron, because I sort of always felt like if you're wearing an apron, it means you're a proper artist. So that was one of the main things I was looking forward to with this challenge, was wearing an apron. And one of the first things I did with abstract painting was, before I even put any paint onto the canvas, I just threw a load of paint onto my apron, and that kind of set the tone really for the whole challenge. It was just that this is going to be something that is going to be messy but a lot of fun, and that's basically what one of the main things is, just how liberating and fun abstract painting is. Another little experience I had was to do with the easel, and I've never really used an easel before, but I managed to pick up a second-hand easel really cheap just a couple of days before the challenge started. And what I was doing was, I had a load of small canvases which were 20 by 20, because I thought if I use small canvases it might keep things a bit more simple, and I was also thinking about not using too much paint. So I had these small canvases, but on the first day I used a really big canvas, and that's the one I ended up throwing that one away in the end because it was so big I couldn't store it anywhere. But all the other paintings were much smaller, and when I went to put that small canvas on the easel I realised it didn't fit. So I spent more time on that day, which was day 2. I spent more time trying to work out how to put the canvas onto the easel than I did actually painting. So what I ended up doing was actually doing that painting holding the canvas in my hand, which I don't think that's how the professionals do it, but that was the only way I could do it because I couldn't work out how to get the canvas onto the easel, and in the end I ended up botching it in place, so I managed to get it working in the end. So I think what I learnt there was that you have to be adaptable really, and expect the unexpected when doing paintings really. Another little experience I had was on day 3, where just before I was going to do my painting, I was watching some YouTube videos for like inspiration, and there was an artist on there doing an abstract painting, and while he was painting away he suddenly put his finger into the painting to like blend some of the lines he had created, to produce soft edges, and I just thought, wow, I didn't realise that you could do that. So what I learnt there was about not making assumptions when painting, because I had sort of, with pencil drawings, there's like a bunch of rules, and you almost have to play by those rules, because that's sort of how drawing works. You can break the rules, but like I said, pencil drawing is a lot more strict. But when I watched that video and I saw him putting his fingers in, because I'd always just assumed that if you're doing a painting, you can only use a brush or like a palette knife. But seeing him put his fingers in there and it looking really good, it suddenly made me realise that you can do anything with painting. It was just basically realising that not to make assumptions, and that little experience like opened up my eyes to make me realise not to be too focused on rules, and if I want to put my finger into the painting, just to do it. So that was a really good little moment. That something else, another little experience was, because I was using the palette knife for the abstract painting, I was getting through so much paint that after a few days I started thinking I'm not going to have enough paint to complete the 30 days. So I ended up trying to look for some new paint, and I started out using just these little 35ml tubes. That's all I had when I started the challenge, but they were going so quickly because I was using the palette knife that I thought I better buy some bigger ones. So the next little thing I was going to talk about was this website called curtisward.com, which I'll put a links to in the show notes, but I managed to find these 200ml tubes of Royal Talens Van Gogh oil paint and they're only £7.65 each, whereas the same size tube in my local art store was like £15. So it was so much cheaper, and I watched some YouTube videos before I bought the paints, and people were reviewing the paints, comparing them with Winsor & Newton and I think it was Daler-Rowney or something, and they were looking quite good. So that gave me the confidence that these paints would be good enough. And yeah, they were really good, and like I said, they're really big tubes. So I would say probably they are the most cost-effective oil paints you can get, and they also do these big 500ml tins for £15.99. So you can get like 500ml on that website for almost the same price as 200ml in a shop. So I'm going to be buying all my future paints from Curtis Ward, and they also, I ordered them on a Friday evening and it was delivered Monday morning, so it was also next working day. It was very quick delivery as well, and they also do a click and collect, so if you was a bit worried that you might miss the delivery, you can just get it delivered to a shop. So that's basically the main things I wanted to talk about with abstract painting. It was I haven't done any abstract painting since, but last week I was watching a YouTube video from a girl called Amy, who was kind enough to leave a comment on one of my videos, and her YouTube channel is Amy's Art and Design. I think you can hear it in the background there. And she's got this video on there, which I'll link to in the show notes, and it's about how to create a watercolour splatter effect, and it looks like a really simple thing to do, but it looks really cool and it looks like so much fun. And this sort of goes back to that thing of how abstract painting and painting sort of makes you feel like a kid again, because what she does is she gets a little bit of paint and she blobs it onto the paper, and then she, with her paintbrush, creates little lines coming off of the blob of paint, so it looks, I guess, kind of like a squashed spider or something. But this sort of is an example of how, when you're doing painting, so you're sort of guiding the paint, but the paint is also in control, because what she does is she gets a straw and she blows onto the paint, and then the paint the watercolour goes and follows the lines that she's already created, but it then randomly goes off. So it just creates this really cool splatter effect, and it sort of demonstrates how you and the paint are working together, because she's sort of guiding where the paint's going to go, but she has no idea of where it's really going to end up because it's in control of that. So it creates this random effect that she still has a bit of control over. And that's what I love about what I sort of noticed whilst painting for these 30 days. It was just a really fun experience, and abstract painting is definitely one of the most fun things. So I just wanted to talk about that on the podcast because I thought it might be quite fun. And like I said, when I watched that video of Amy's, it got me thinking, I want to do some more abstract painting. So that's where this podcast came from, really. I think that's it. Yes, that is it. So this Tuesday I'll be putting up a new YouTube video, and this one's going to be about another one of my older pencil drawings, and it is of another video game character called Reset. And the thing I'm going to talk about mainly in that video is going to be how I used to blend pencils with my finger, and why I stopped doing that. And I'll give some examples. So I put that video up on Tuesday, which you can find at youtube.com/Sophie Lawson. I'll put links and everything in the show notes at sofreeart.com. And until next time, hope you had fun. And this week's quote goes to the amazing artist Bob Ross, and it is, "No pressure, just relax and let it happen." Bob Ross.